We have created a timeline of some well-known horror movies, starting from the 60s and working up to the noughties, showing how they have changed and varied in technical ability and horror content.
In the 60s, people were very conservative about what they would watch and what they wouldn't. Age ratings were much harsher and scary films weren't shown until almost midnight.
A famous film from the 60s was Creep. The notorious dramatic music is still seen as scary and frightening today. The director Hitchcock could be considered to have paved the way for how music is used in horror films today.
We then move on to the 70s. Colour is used more frequently here, age restrictions are slightly lessened, although not much, and the contents become more experimental and testing on the audience. The picture shown here on the right is from The Exorcist, and the idea behind it is so new and unheard of because it was actually banned from television.
Psychological horrors also became more common. Up until this point, horror was considered grisly gore, not more chilling ideas such as the ghost stories we see today.
The 80s could be considered the most experimental years. Colour was used again, but black and white was still considered more effective. Again, the experimental child play had detrimental effects on the public, especially after the Jamie Bulger case. This was very significant as it was around this time age restrictions were lessened and people frowned on horror films after seeing the effects of what they had on children.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was also quite influential, as it had both gore and psychological scares in it, making it one of the first to entail both. However, if you have ever seen the original film, the special effects are not good, so it is clear to see that by the 80s, special effects has not yet been perfected.
The 19 seemed to be all about the psychological horror rather than the gore. A famous example of this is The Shining, where we slowly see the main characters descend into madness. This also included several jumpy scenes from the audience, as it's still seen as a very popular and famous movie today.
Again, special effects was limited but slowly improving and settings were becoming more adventurous. This is nothing compared to the films we see today, however. With the realistic and believable gory special effects and different settings and more disturbing plots than ever before, these are definitely the best years for horror.
But remember, without the years leading up to this, we might not have had what we have today. Every film has been influential in its own way and we have changed the films a little bit, but there are definitely the more significant and memorable films that had more of a bearing.
As we are creating our own trailer, it is important that we look at all these films to see how times have changed and what we are expected to do to get the best reaction today. It is obvious it is more about the ghost stories and gore than ever before, so we should definitely try to include these.